Today I'm going to be talking about something that's happened a long time ago, but I felt like I wanted to talk about it today because I've just been thinking about it because, you know, I've been slowly re-entering the dating world. I've been trying to go on dates, even though it's like, you know, the pandemic, but like Connecticut has a relatively low rate of infection, and I feel like the people that I have been talking to are, you know, safe, I guess. No, are they ever really truly safe? They're not. But it's not like I'm gonna be like, you know, kissing anybody or making out with anybody. I did have one date set up for last week, and this girl legitimately ghosted me and then completely deleted me off of Tinder with no explanation at all, which has left me suffering with a very, very deep ego wound and just questioning everything about myself. But it's okay, you know, we shall move on and continue and see what happens. So I actually wanted to talk about an interesting dating experience that I had early last year, and I've never really talked about it on my channel because, I don't know, sometimes I worry that the person that I'm talking about is going to watch the video, but I'm like truly hoping that the person that I'm going to be making this video about does not even remember who I am at this point, so I'm able to talk as much shit as I please. But if he does watch it, I hope he doesn't murder me. That would be definitely a bummer. Very early last year, it was like at the edge of summer. It was like spring going into summer. I was not freshly single. I was in a relationship for a year with this person, but I remember you know, single for like a month or two, and I was kind of lonely and feeling sad, and I just needed something to distract myself. I knew I wasn't really ready to jump into anything serious, and I was talking to a few people online and experimenting, and I don't mean like sexually, because at that point I'd actually decided to be celibate, and I was extremely vocal about it too, like to the point where it's kind of annoying. It's like, alright Stephanie, we fucking get it. You're not gonna be having sex with us. You know, that's just the way it was. Somebody just texted me. Wait, what? It's National fucking Hummingbird Day. So I was on Bumble and I matched with this guy, and let's just say there really wasn't anything attractive about this man physically other than the fact that he ran a hedge fund. And I was intrigued by this because, you know, through my years of living in New York City, I had encountered a lot of finance guys, but I never really had encountered a guy who like actually ran his own hedge fund, and I thought that that was so cool, and I was like, wow. And at this point in time, I was watching the show Billions, and like this guy literally fit the profile of the guy from Billions, so I was like, oh my god, like I wonder if he's really like the guy from the show. So I was like, you know what, let me continue talking to this person. And at that point, you know, I was doing very well for myself. Like I had just bought a new Porsche and I was living in a nice apartment, but you know, I always wondered, oh, how does the other half live? I'm like a, you know, a middle class, well-to-do woman, but I want to see what it's like to be with a millionaire. So I ended up going on a date with this guy, and our first date was actually at a country club. And I remember driving to this country club and just being like, wow, the entire surrounding area was extremely affluent. I get there and it's just a lot of vineyard vines wearing white people. It was so not my scene, it was so not my vibe, but I think I was excited because I had never experienced anything like this before, and I really wanted to see what it was like to hang out with people who were like, you know, born into wealth and wore salmon-colored cargo shorts. We sat on this like platform overlooking the ocean. He got me a drink, and honestly, I was like kind of bummed out because there was no food, and he was giving me alcohol, and I was like, oh my god, like why aren't you feeding me? I was actually prepared for there to be food on this first date, and there wasn't, so I ended up getting drunk like after 2 drinks. I mean, I was still okay to drive because I stayed there for like 4 or 5 hours with him, and we were talking and, you know, having a pretty good discussion, and he was funny, he had a good personality. But once the date ended, I was starving. I had like 2 Prosecco's on an empty stomach, so I ended up doing my post-date ritual, which is going through the McDonald's drive-thru on the way home and getting a 4-piece nugget with a Diet Coke. Literally do this every time I go on a date. It doesn't matter if we go to a steakhouse, it doesn't matter if we go to an Italian restaurant. After every single date, I have to get a 4-piece nugget. You know, I wasn't really sure how I felt about him. I wasn't physically attracted to him, but like, conversation was good. He had a good sense of humor. He seemed really intrigued by my work and my livelihood. Oh, okay, cool. He thinks I'm interesting. And after that date, you kind of just wait around. You're just like, okay, well, is he gonna ever text me back, or is he just gonna ghost me like they mostly do? And he actually ended up texting me. He's like, hey, like, I'd like to hang out again. When can I see you again? And he seemed really like impatient and anxious to see me again. And I was like, okay, well, we can do next weekend. And once again, he invited me to his country club. And at this point, I was kind of like, you know, this country club is pretty cool. It's right on the ocean. I get to hang out with the upper crust and feel cool for like 3 hours of my life. And even if this guy kind of sucks, it is cool hanging out at this country club. I had nothing to gain from this. Honestly, I would never want to date somebody just because they make a lot of money. I would rather make my own money. When you marry a rich man, it's like you never have that money unless you get a lot in like a divorce settlement or something. But that's a fucking pain in the ass. You're better off just working on yourself and making your own money. Trust me, girls. You don't want to marry a rich man. They're fucking crazy. A lot of them have personality disorders. Had my second date with this guy, and he like invited one of his friends to come join us, and his friend was like such a Chad. These were the kinds of guys that like, oh, like I went to Princeton, I went to Harvard, and I'm just sitting here like, I sell my nudes online. They seemed like so entertained by me, and now that I look back on it, I completely understand what was going on. So anyway, after the date, second time at the country club, we decided that we were gonna go back to his place. And he lives in the richest town in Fairfield County, on like the richest street where there's like all mansions. It's super, super fancy. So I remember driving with him to his house. It was like midnight, and I told him, I was like, listen, straight up, I'm celibate. I'm not gonna have sex with you. I'm not even gonna suck your dick. Nothing's gonna happen. And I'm very blunt and honest like that with people, and actually usually guys like it, but sometimes I worry that guys don't see it as something for what it is. They see it as a challenge, like, oh, she says she's celibate, we'll see about that. And it's like, no, really, seriously, I'm celibate. So, you know, we go back to his place and we continue to have some drinks, and you know, his house is very, very nice. It's like a castle pretty much, and I'm kind of just like, wow, like I'm literally living the show Billions right now. It felt cool, you know, like I wasn't really into this guy. There was no way that I was ever gonna have sex with this guy, and I even told him, even when he like whipped his dick out in front of me, I was just like, I'm never gonna have sex with you. I literally said this verbatim. I was like, I'll probably never have sex with you. And I think he was okay with that, because at first he thought it was a challenge, but by date 4 he realized that I was actually just like batshit crazy. And I think we went on a total of like 3 or 4 dates, and every single day I would push the limits of like how much I could scare this man, and every single day I would like reveal some kind of like bombshell about myself, like a personality defect. I give out these like little bursts of information, like I used to be a stripper, kind of like when a kid does something really, really bad and then looks at their parents and is like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna never talk to me again? Oftentimes they don't, but it's always a question of when do they stop talking to me? Is it after the first date? A lot of the times it is, but this guy made it to like date 4 before ghosting me, and that was honestly, congratulations. It was quite a fucking achievement. There was just no physical attraction there. A part of me was like, can I live this life? Like maybe I can suck it up. Like it'd be cool to live in this castle, but then I'd have to be with him and that would suck. So it's not worth it, you know? It's just like make your own money and buy your own castle, and you don't even have to deal with a man. And look at me now. I have my own beautiful house and I have a nice car and I don't need no mans. But it really felt like when I was dating him, you know, every time he took me to the country club. And it's been like over a year now, well over a year now since I have gone out on these dates with this guy. But the more and more I reflect on it, the more it clicks in my head. I really wasn't like a person to him. I was kind of like, you know how as kids in kindergarten, you have show and tell days where you like bring in an object or something and you present it to the class, and usually, you know, know, the person who wins show and tell is the person who brings in the weirdest thing with the craziest story. Or it's kind of like that movie Dinner for Schmucks, where all of these rich people compete in who can bring the weirdest person to dinner. And I think that was me at the country club. I think that it was basically his version of Dinner for Schmucks. He would like bring me to the country club and he'd be like, check this out, like, what the fuck? And all his friends would just be like, yeah, man, she's fucking nuts. I realize that now, and am I proud of that? Fuck yes. Shortly after that, I did start becoming a little bit more serious with another person that I ended up dating. You know, you guys know that whole story. I don't need to get into that, but yeah, that was my like last encounter with a man, and it was interesting, and we never spoke again. We never did. And I actually ended up speaking to somebody who also had matched with him on a dating app and had also dated him and had a similar experience. I'm like, wow, this guy literally, he just makes his rounds. He really does. You know, and there was a moment in time where I did think, okay, well, maybe I do want to date somebody who's very well off. I think at the end of the day, that's pointless, because if there's no chemistry, if there is no love, that's his stuff, you know, it's not yours. And I would have much rather built those things for myself instead of getting it from some guy who then I would have to like deal with all the time. So yeah, I was a schmuck at the Dinner for Schmucks at the country club, and it was cool. One thing I have to say about country clubs though is like, damn, they're so expensive. They have these crazy fees. It was a culturally immersive experience, but it's not something that I would want to be like my life. So anyway, that is my interesting dating story. I feel like now that I'm slowly edging myself back into the dating scene, I feel that I'm gonna have more stories for you guys. So, you know, stay tuned. The old Stepanka's back. She's turning 30, but she's not slowing down. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure to click the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel. I also have an OnlyFans page. There's 18 and up content there, so I'm gonna link that below. And I have a free OnlyFans, which is not as sexy, but it has some really cool stuff on there too. So, you know, might as well join because it's free, okay? But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Bye.